Hi everyone, I just wanted to make you a little video about the upcoming Mars retrograde in Aries energies, particularly as it is so entangled with some of the other powerful planetary alignments that we have been experiencing this epochal year. I particularly wanted to talk about Mars and her conjunctions with Eris, the goddess of discord, during this retrograde period, as it's been coming up in so many readings. Eris has been making herself very, very prominent. She's very prominent in my own chart, and I'm also a very Martian person, so I feel to speak into this energy at this time to give everybody a little bit of insight as to what we are working with and what is coming up for us all collectively over the last months of this transitional 2020 year. So Mars, as of the 26th, 27th of July, is in her shadow period at 15 degrees Aries. She will station retrograde at 28 degrees Aries on 9/9, the 9th of September. And she will retrograde back to 15 degrees, where she will station direct on November the 13th, Friday the 13th. Both of these numbers feel very significant as a influence on the retrograde journey as well. So Mars retrogrades happen around every 2 years. So if we look back to the last one, which was in Aquarius, late summer 2018. Mars has been previously retrograde in Aries in the years of 1988 and 1941, and we can see significant shifts and events to do with Mars themes happening during these periods. There was a lot of unrest in 88. There was the forming of Al Qaeda. 1941, I believe, was Pearl Harbor. It was, very interwoven with the energies of the World War. So Mars retrograde in Aries, as it's her home sign, is extra potent, extra powerful. And already this year, we've seen so much taking place, which Mars is going to, come up and amplify and almost antagonize a little bit. So we're going to talk about this energy and how we can use it for evolution, how we can use it for fuel for change, rather than falling into fear or anxiety around these very powerful transits. So you've probably already felt the Mars energy activating. We've had Mars, coming into Aries, like I said, at the end of June, meeting with Chiron as she stationed retrograde earlier this month. And, Mercury during her retrograde journey has been squaring Mars. So we've really noticed this fire energy rising up through our connections and communications in person and on social media, giving us a little bit of a foreshadowing of, what we might experience over the rest of the year as well. So Mars in Aries as an archetype, she is the Amazon, she's the Valkyrie, she's the warrioress. Mars in Aries, she wants to move forward, she wants to initiate the new, she wants to individuate. If we think of coming out of Pisces and into Aries, coming out of the cosmic womb and into our personal sense of identity and sense of self, we get a good insight into this energy. She is like a racehorse chomping at the bit. She's life force in motion. She is assertive and individuated. So this is a feisty energy. This is a fiery energy. This is a really don't tell me what to do, my way or the highway kind of energy. We know that Aries in and of itself is a sign that is geared towards freedom and autonomy, and Mars just exasperates this and takes it to a new level. So we're looking at our sense of personal power, our individual will. We're looking at this volcanic, tempestuous, and somewhat rebellious energy. You know, Mars really relates to our desire, our drive, our vitality. So it's a quite a intense energy, particularly, you know, during this period of Leo season when the sun is in a fire sign as well. So you may be feeling the stirrings of creativity reawakening after that very watery dive through eclipse season and Mercury retrograde, and you know, the deep soul journey of Venus in the underworld this year as well. So we've got this kind of energy that is picking up speed, that is gathering steam, moving through our collective. So what will happen as Mars moves deeper into her retrograde shadow, and also as she journeys backwards through Aries, is that she will meet the stellium of planets that is currently in Capricorn. So if we look up to Capricorn, we know that Saturn has just moved back into Capricorn, retrograde. Jupiter is retrograde in Capricorn, Pluto is retrograde, all in the final degrees of Capricorn. So as Mars comes down to the final degrees of Aries, she will create that challenging energy, that tense square. And this is going to start happening as we go into early August. So this is coming up quite soon. So what happens when Mars Aries meets Saturn Capricorn? We have this tension between our individual will, our independent nature, and the system, the structures that are, you know, holding the world in place. And, you know, Capricorn and Saturn is to do with governments, it's to do with hierarchy, it's to do with law. So we can see this polarity that is forming, this energy that is building as the rebellious energy of Mars tests the old structures. So, you know, during this period of Mars retrograde, we'll see this expanding even more. You know, we're already in a place in our current earthly timeline where our freedoms are being compromised. You know, there are new regulations in place that perhaps make us feel restricted. So we can see that this energy will keep on spiraling, will keep on building as Mars comes to connect with those planets in Capricorn over the coming months. I think the first Mars square will be to Jupiter on the 3rd of August. Then on the 13th, it will be Pluto. And then on the 24th, it will be Saturn. And then these squares will repeat through October and into December as Mars journeys backwards and forwards. So this is where we might meet the shadow side of Mars, that real impatience, that volatility, even that aggression or hostility as we try to retain our Mars independence at any cost. You know, this can be the drive with Mars. It can be, if you stand in my way, I will drive you down. So this is what we really have to be careful of on a personal level, that we're not falling into the selfishness of Mars and Aries, which can be one of the big shadows here, because it's likely that our survival energy, our root chakra energies will be stirred up during this time. So out of fear, we can react from a place that we perhaps wouldn't normally when we're feeling more centered and grounded. Or, you know, we can feel the pressure building up inside us because we don't feel free, or we aren't able to express our unique individuality, which is what Mars in Aries wants. We can't initiate things, we can't begin things because Saturn is holding us back, making us work, making us stop and change and look within. So this is really a time of looking at how we use the energy of sacred rage, using anger as a fuel for change rather than turning it inward or projecting it out in ways that are not in alignment with our soul's evolutionary journey. So we want to be really aware of the projection of our own fear and wounding, and being aware of receiving that from other people as well. So Mars, more than anything, speaks to us of desire. What do I want, says Mars, and how am I going to get it? So this Mars energy, it really asks us to look at what we truly want, where we are investing our energy, where we are investing our vitality, and thinking about, is this really a desire or a rebellion activation that is coming from that wounded teenager or child within me? Or is this a desire of the soul? Is this what I feel is right for my soul's karmic pathway? So there are these different evolutionary stages of desire which are described by Mars, which can be the lower carnal desires of the human, and Pluto, which is the soul's desires. In evolutionary astrology, Pluto is the energy of the soul, the higher octave of Mars. It's that phoenix energy of rebirth. So we know that from this period there will be new things being born. But first of all, we have to surrender to the chaos. We have to surrender what we think we want in order to receive what we truly want. And thinking also about what is good for the whole. This opposite energy of Mars is Libra. Libra says, what is good for the other? So how can we find that balance within us and within our lives? The opposite of Mars is harmony. Harmony, balance, peace. So how can we cultivate Mars and use it from a space of creating, a desire to create peace, a desire for justice, rather than just acting out in aggressive ways? So this will be a long period of reassessing who we are and what we want. It will ask us to rediscover what we are passionate about, what makes us feel alive, what makes us feel inspired and excited. These are the positive aspects of Mars and Aries. How can we empower ourselves and empower others? So I would really invite you to look at the area of your chart that Mars is going to be retrograding through over the coming months. Mars won't actually leave Aries until the 6th of January. So the area of life, the area of the birth chart that is being triggered, is going to be where we are doing the work. We also look at the Capricorn space to see where this angle of tension is forming between what we want and what we have to do. The pressure of Saturn, which crystallizes eventually. So we can find ourselves reaping some amazing results if we can harness this energy in the correct way. So for me, Mars and Capricorn are the energy of the forge of alchemy, the forge of transformation. So Mars is the hot fire. Capricorn is the hammer and the anvil. So we are reshaping our reality. We're reshaping our life from the center of this tension. So ultimately, we can arise reborn. So that's a little insight into the Mars vibration that we are collectively working with. And what I really wanted to talk about today is Eris. Eris is also in Aries. She is in the late degrees of Aries. So Mars is going to conjunct her 3 times during his retrograde journey. The first time on the 15th of August, then again when she is retrograde on October the 2nd, and then for the final time on December the 23rd, which is a very significant day for many reasons. So Eris has been involved in this Capricorn, Saturn, Pluto energy since last year. You know, she's been squaring Pluto, and she has become very prominent in the collective consciousness. She was discovered in 2005, and she is a planetoid. You know, she's out in deep space with Pluto, so she's very, very far away from the Earth. She takes over 500 years to do a complete revolution through the zodiac. What's really interesting is that she was originally going to be named Persephone or Xena, you know, after the warrior princess, who was interestingly played by the actress Lucy Lawless, who is a triple Aries. So we can see this connection between Aries and the Eris energy. And Eris has been in Aries since the early 1900s. So this is how long it takes her to go through the zodiac. She's very, very slow moving. So Eris in mythology is sometimes called the daughter of Nyx, the goddess of primordial chaos, the void space from which all new life is birthed. In other discussions, she is known as the sister of Aries. So, you know, we could say that she perhaps has co-rulership with Aries and Scorpio in a similar way to Mars. She is known as the goddess of discord and strife. So she is a bit of a creatrix of chaos. There are also themes of retribution that come through with the mythology of Eris. When we look deeply, we can see stories that tell us that Eris was unleashed. Eris, strife and discord, was unleashed upon anybody that lied under oath. So she can be considered a goddess of karmic balance, justice and retribution as well. She shares a lot of similarities with Lilith, who is also in Aries during this period and will be conjuncting Mars as well. On August the 8th and September the 23rd, before she moves into Taurus in late October. So really these two goddesses share a lot of similarities, and they both share a connection with the apple in mythology. So we know with them we are looking at the deep feminine wisdom, the wounds of persecution, of this shadow side of the feminine as well. Both are considered rebellious, but also protectresses of women and children. So there's this real rising up of the warrior feminine that is being triggered at this time. This real energy of the sacred activist, the warrior queen. So we can look at these archetypes of Boudica, of Morrigan from Irish mythology, the battle raven, the battle goddess, Kali, the goddess of creation and destruction. So it's this blending of the warrior energy of Aries and the death and rebirth cycles of Scorpio that are coming together with these goddesses, with this energy. So I've been sharing the story of Eris in a lot of readings this week because everybody that I've spoken to has had her in a significant placement. And the stories of her, her mythology has really helped them to understand certain scenarios that are unfolding in their life during this period. So I wanted to share the story of Eris with you in case you haven't heard it before. Those of you who have been in circle with me know how much I like telling these stories. So Eris was disinvited to a wedding party that was taking place on Mount Olympus. She was not sent an invite. So in true Eris style, she turns up anyway to this party. So we see echoes of the story of Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty in this as well. And in her hand, she holds the apple of discord. And upon this apple are inscribed the words, "To the fairest." And she casts this apple onto the table that the wedding feast was placed upon. And immediately 3 goddesses reached out to grab the apple, believing that it was theirs. So we have Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. We have Hera, the sovereign goddess. We have Athena, the goddess of battle, all believing that they should have the apple. And they begin bickering and squabbling, as they often do in Greek mythology. And Zeus looks over, from the head of the table, he looks over and he says, I'm not getting involved in this. And he decrees that a mortal man should make this decision of which goddess deserves the apple to the fairest. So Paris of Troy is chosen as the mortal that will make the decision. And each of the goddesses appear to him. They each appear and they offer him something that they believe that he would want. So we have Hera, who offers him, kingdoms, rulership, sovereignty. Aphrodite offers him love, romance, the most beautiful woman in the world. Athena offers him prowess in battle to become a great warrior. In some stories, it's actually said that the goddesses strip naked as well to reveal their beauty to him, which is a very interesting thing to think about as well. So Paris, of course, chooses the offer of Aphrodite. And Aphrodite offers Paris Helen, the wife of Menelaus. And the two fall irrevocably in love, and Paris steals Helen away from the king, which inevitably starts the Trojan War. So through this act of throwing the apple, Eris has set into motion all of these powerful events, which eventually led to the downfall of a very powerful civilization. So this is where she gets her reputation for being the disruptor, of the natural order. So she throws this apple onto the table of the hierarchy of the elite, and in many ways causes the downfall. So she speaks to the parts of us that feel like the outsider, that feel like the exile, that feel unwelcomed, that feel uninvited. And very often Aries energy, particularly in the feminine, is uninvited and unwelcome in our current culture. In ancient times, women were as likely to be warriors as men. But now, our anger, our sexuality, which is another face of Aries, is often unwelcome. And we've all had moments in our life where we felt that we don't belong, that our energy wasn't welcome. And Eris reflects that. So she encourages us to embrace them, to welcome the parts of ourselves that we feel don't belong so that we can come into wholeness. So don't forget, Chiron is in Aries as well. Chiron, the soul healer, Chiron, the shaman. So how can we call back all of these disowned parts of ourselves, these Aries parts of ourselves, these parts of ourselves that feel triggered and wounded, so that we can reclaim our fire, reclaim our Aryan power. Eris tells us that the parts of ourselves that won't conform are the parts of ourselves that create change. Out of chaos, new life is born. So that's where we are currently collectively. There is this energy of, you know, people not wanting to conform. There is this energy of chaos, of uncertainty that we are all working with. And so we can use this energy, this mythology, as a guide to help us to understand what is going on, to help us to understand why we might be feeling this desire to rise up, this desire to tear down what isn't working, what needs to change. So what's really interesting, I was reading an article by Julia Sims from the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, and she says that Eris and Mars were together during a Mars retrograde at the time that the Trojan War was believed to have taken place. So how symbolic is this? And we can see the elements of the Trojan horse, you know, really playing out in our society, with things sneaking under the radar, things not being completely as they seem. So it's a powerful metaphor. And as I was thinking about this, I was also thinking about the prophetess Cassandra, who is so prominent in the story as well. And you know, she was the one that was warning everybody that the city was going to burn. Nobody took any notice. So there's all of these different elements, all of these different weaves of mythology, the threads that we can pull to help us understand what is happening on a collective and personal level right now. So I wanted to share with you the energy of Eris. I wanted to invite her into your consciousness a little bit more deeply. And for those of us who were born from the 80s onwards, Mars is going to be triggering our natal Eris. So from about 1981, we can see that Eris was in the mid degrees of Aries, where Mars is going to be transiting during this time. So for us, our inner Eris is really going to be coming to life. We can really find that inner warrioress, that inner activist, and bring her forward during this period. And you know, we also need to be aware of working with the shadows of that. We need to be aware of where we are rebelling for the sake of rebellion, as I mentioned earlier, and when it is truly appropriate to wield the sword. So some of you, like me, will also be the Pluto and Scorpio generation. So it's a really powerful soul group energy that is being awoken during this time. So for those of you who were born before the 1980s, Eris will be in the earlier degrees of Aries for you, so you can look to see if there is anything that is triggering her at the moment in your personal chart as well. So it's a really exciting time. It's a really inflamed time. So let's have a think about how we can really work with these energies and utilize them, as I've said, for soul growth, for awakening soul desire, rather than falling into this shadow of Mars, this volcanic expression of Mars. So the first thing that we can do, as I've mentioned before, is look at the area of our chart that is being triggered. So those of you with planets in the cardinal signs, and particularly those last 15 degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and of course Aries, will find that you have a personal activation from these Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter energies and Mars and Eris. So see what is being called up for you to look at, to work with during this period. See what personal lessons and personal growth is coming up for you. You know, become your own astrologer, become your own guru. Another lesson that we are perhaps learning a little bit at this time as well. And preparation, you know, getting everything in order, because there are going to be some powerful shifts, you know, happening in the outside world again as well. So maybe we'll go back into the lockdown. Maybe it will be a little bit more of an aggressive lockdown. We know that Mars is connected with the military as well as civil uprising. So we can already see this happening in certain parts of the world, and that is likely to grow during this time. So getting ourselves prepared mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, beginning a good daily practice that helps you to be grounded and centered during these times, surrounding yourself with like-minded souls so you don't feel like the rebellious outsider. Looking at it on a physical level, we can see that Mars in Aries, particularly with Chiron, is to do with not only inflammation of the emotions, but also inflammation of the physical body, which most people would, you know, most health professionals would say is the root of many illnesses. So focusing on that, on how we can detoxify our body, how we can support our nervous system. The adrenals can be particularly active, you know, like I said before, that survival energy, that root chakra energy, particularly triggered during this time. Aries has to do with the head as well. So being aware of, you know, coming down into the body, grounding in the earth, not letting that pressure build up as well, can be really helpful. So taking care of ourselves on every level, realigning with our soul's true desires. What did our soul desire to learn when we stepped into physical Mars incarnation this lifetime? We are born for these times, as the quote says. We have incarnated during this time of transition with a purpose, with a special, unique part to play. So cultivating connection with that can really help us to feel motivated, can help us to feel inspired, those positive qualities of Mars in Aries. So looking from a polarity point, we can see that, as I've mentioned earlier, the polarity of Mars is Libra. So being aware of the other, being aware of making fair and balanced decisions, being aware that we can choose to create harmony and peace. The opposite of Capricorn, where we have this big stellium going on, is Cancer. So even though the North Node has now moved from Cancer into Gemini and we're on a different eclipse cycle, we can still embrace and embody these Cancerian energies. We don't want to forget our Cancer lessons of nurturing, creating a space of solace, creating connection with the tribe. We need to balance out this Capricorn energy of productivity, of doing, of seriousness, with warmth and comfort, with providing that for ourselves and for others as well. I really feel during this time, as we build up to this transition into Aquarius, around the winter solstice this year, for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, that community is going to be really, really important. If we want to take back our power, we have to come together. We can't do it alone. So if we think about the story of Eris, and the goddesses squabbling and dividing is what caused all of the problems. So we really want to work from the perspective of knowing that although we are separate, we are also intimately connected, and our actions have an impact on all of those around us. So reattuning with what is meaningful, what is important, cultivating a sense of safety within will all be key healing techniques during this period. So thinking about for yourself how you can really embody your truth. So this is the positive aspect of Mars and Saturn. We can really embody our authenticity, our integrity. Saturn, always wants us to walk our talk. And as we really develop that strong sense of who we are, we can start to manifest things. We can start to create the changes that we have been desiring. So I hope that this little video brings some insight and some understanding of what is going to be unfolding. Thank you all so much for listening to me. I will post some links in the comments, in the information box, if you would like to connect with me further. So many blessings.